Hey everyone, my name is Ethan Walker. 3 years ago, I went on a solo hunting trip in the Alaskan backcountry. I had experience. I had gear. I had a GPS. What I didn't have was any idea that a single mistake would leave me stranded in one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. For 72 hours, I battled freezing temperatures, hunger, exhaustion, and the terrifying feeling that nobody knew where I was. What happened out there changed my life forever. And if you're watching this before heading into the wilderness, what saved me might save you someday too. Let's get into it. It was late September. The Alaskan wilderness was already preparing for winter. The trees glowed orange and gold. The mountains were covered with fresh snow. Temperatures dropped below freezing every night. I had planned a 4-day hunting trip about 30 miles from the nearest town. The forecast looked perfect. Clear skies. Light winds. No storms expected. I packed everything carefully. Food. Water filters. Emergency supplies. Satellite communicator. Extra batteries. I felt prepared for anything. Or at least I thought I was. The first 2 days went exactly as planned. I explored valleys, crossed rivers, and set up camp near a small lake surrounded by mountains. The scenery was unbelievable. No roads. No buildings. No people. Just pure wilderness. On the morning of day 3, I spotted a large bull moose several miles away. I decided to follow its tracks. That decision changed everything. The tracks led me deeper into the wilderness than I intended. Hours passed. I crossed rocky ridges and thick forests. The moose stayed just out of sight. Around noon, clouds started building over the mountains. At first, I wasn't worried. Weather changes quickly in Alaska, but within an hour, the sky turned dark gray. The wind picked up. Snow began falling. Then the storm hit. Visibility dropped to less than 50 feet. The world disappeared into a wall of white. I pulled out my GPS. Nothing. The screen was dead. The freezing temperatures had drained the battery. I reached for my backup battery pack. My stomach dropped. It wasn't there. I had accidentally left it in my tent. For the first time that trip, I felt nervous. I tried retracing my steps. Everything looked the same. Snow covered the tracks almost instantly. The mountains vanished behind the storm. The forest became a maze. I was lost. Completely lost. I spent the next 3 hours trying to find familiar landmarks. Nothing looked recognizable. As darkness approached, panic started creeping into my mind. I knew panic kills people. So I forced myself to stop. Take a breath. Think. I remembered survival training I'd learned years earlier. Shelter first. Everything else second. The temperature was dropping rapidly. If I didn't stay warm, I wouldn't survive the night. I found a cluster of spruce trees and built a makeshift shelter using branches. It wasn't pretty. But it blocked the wind. Then I gathered firewood. Lots of it. I knew I would need a fire all night. Getting that fire started became one of the hardest tasks of my life. Snow covered everything. The wood was damp. My hands were shaking from the cold. After nearly 40 minutes of trying, a small flame finally appeared. I've never been happier to see fire. That tiny flame meant life. I spent the night feeding the fire constantly. Every time I started falling asleep, I woke up shivering. The wind screamed through the trees. Strange sounds echoed through the darkness. At one point, I heard wolves howling somewhere in the distance. The sound seemed to come from every direction. I won't lie. That night terrified me. Morning finally arrived. I had survived the first night. But my problems were only getting started. The storm had moved on. The sky was clear. Unfortunately, I still had no idea where I was. My food supply was running low. My water bottles had partially frozen. And nobody knew my exact location. I climbed a nearby ridge hoping to spot something familiar. Nothing. Just endless wilderness stretching to the horizon. Mile after mile of mountains and forest. That's when reality hit me. Rescue might take days. Maybe longer. I needed to think like a survivor. Not a victim. I began moving downhill because rivers often lead to roads or settlements. It sounded simple. It wasn't. The terrain was brutal. Steep slopes. Hidden holes. Icy rocks. Every step required concentration. Late that afternoon, disaster struck again. While crossing a frozen stream, the ice broke beneath me. 1 second I was walking. The next I was chest deep in freezing water. The shock was unbelievable. The cold stole my breath instantly. I clawed my way out and crawled onto the bank. My clothes were soaked. In freezing temperatures, wet clothes can kill within hours. I immediately stripped off the outer layers and built another fire. It took nearly an hour. The entire time I was shaking uncontrollably. I honestly thought I might die right there. But eventually, the fire grew. My body warmed. And I survived another close call. That second night was even harder than the first. I was exhausted. Hungry. Dehydrated. Every muscle hurt, but I kept reminding myself of one thing. As long as I was breathing, I still had a chance. The next morning, I heard something that felt impossible. An airplane. At first I thought I was imagining it. Then I heard it again. Louder this time. A search plane. I grabbed my emergency signal mirror and sprinted toward an open area. The plane appeared over the trees. I flashed the mirror repeatedly. Again. And again. And again. For several terrifying seconds, nothing happened. Then the plane banked sharply. It turned toward me. I started screaming. Waving my arms, jumping up and down. The plane circled overhead. At that moment, I knew they had seen me. I dropped to my knees and cried. Not because I was weak. Because I finally knew I was going home. Several hours later, a rescue helicopter landed nearby. The rescue crew checked me for hypothermia and injuries. One of them told me something I'll never forget. They had been searching in the wrong area. The signal mirror was the reason they found me. Without it, I might have spent several more days out there. Days I probably wouldn't have survived. When I finally returned home, I had lost nearly 15 pounds. My face was covered in cuts. My hands were blistered. And my body was exhausted. But I was alive. Today, whenever people ask what I learned from those 72 hours in the Alaskan wilderness, my answer is simple. Nature doesn't care how experienced you are. It doesn't care how confident you feel. One small mistake can become a life-or-death situation in minutes. Always carry backup navigation. Always tell someone exactly where you're going. Always pack emergency gear. And never underestimate the wilderness. Because out there, survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about staying calm when everything goes wrong. If this story kept you watching, hit like, subscribe, and comment "Stay calm to survive" below. And remember, the wilderness is beautiful. But it always deserves your respect.